We started with question 1. Okay, check your answers, please, as we go through them. Okay, question 1. List 5 advantages of being multicellular. Daniel, what would be 5 advantages of being multicellular, so being us?
We are more energy efficient.
Mm-hmm.
We have longer lifespans, we grow larger.
Okay, let's go right one by one too. So increase the energy, or you may say metabolic efficiency. Okay, good. Why?
Do you want to read out the rest? Or?
Well, I mean, asking here. Okay. Yes, you're right, but why we get that?
Why we get that? The body has specialized cells for more energy efficiency. So, for example, I think epithelial cells within the intestines. So that draws out the nutrients from the food you eat.
Okay, so can we just summarize then the specialization and
energy efficiency?
That's given. Whenever we talk about specialization, there'll be another comes after too, which is called a differentiation. So multicellular cells, unlike the unicellular, we are able to differentiate the cells and make them specialize them in their very specific functions. Okay, good. Ellie, anything else? I mean, longer lifespan is kind of result of that too. I'm going to put it in the 5 because that's the result of everything too. Due to that, we can have the longer the lifespan, which is true, and not only that, an ability to adapt, to adapt to the let's say the diverse environment. That's kind of a result of that. Ultimately, we get that due to the reasons. Anything else? Any other advantages?
Less vulnerable to short-term changes in their environment.
Let's just give it to. Okay. Due to having like multiple cells compared to we kind of talked about it last week too. Rather we having one single cell like unicellular, think about the size of the multicellular organisms. I'm comparing the size of the humans to the bacteria. We are much larger size. And not only that, we are more like what? Really complex in terms of structures. So that's not actually giving us that larger and the complex, the structure, I should say larger size, first of all, and the complex, in terms of the structures or organizations. And why is this so important? Again, that's giving us the idea that this is why we are able to adapt to the diverse environment. Whether that's big or small, we can even adapt to it. Okay, not only those, compared to those unicellular, we are also able to have the enhanced, what I call it as kind of defense mechanisms. Now, have a think about what I mean by defense mechanisms here. Defense mechanism. I'm not simply talking about in terms of the defending from some opponent or something too. It's all about pathogens. It's all about your immune systems. Like, do you expect the unicellular have the immune system so they can protect them from the invasion of the pathogen, viruses, bacteria? It's got to be high likely too. Especially if they get invaded by something like a larger than them too, it's less likely they get defend themselves. Us, if you think about it, you got a flu, you got something like some kind of infectious diseases. Your body can adapt to it, or go like in defense against to them too. It takes time, but you will defend it too. Depends on like diseases, but that's something we can consider to be one of the advantage of being multicellular. Write this one down, please, and try to understand and memorize them if you need to, as time goes. B, explanation of how being multicellular provides each advantage compared with the unicellular organism. So it kind of provide all the reasoning for the question B there too. So it started from the specialization and the differentiations. Means what? We are able to differentiate the cells. So what is the advantage of that? What is the advantage of that? It's kind of related to here. You can see like this, due to the specialization and differentiation, we are able to what? To divide the works that we need to do, or efficient division of the labor with the organisms, which are leading to what? Optimizing overall functions. So what I mean is this: hey, your nerve cell is only working as a nerve cell, transmitting the some informations. Your nerve cell is not working as your stomach cell. It never does that. So that they know they are specialized, they are differentiated too. This means we are able to get the more complex structure as well as more efficient energy use and metabolic activities too. Something that this is coming to the always in the middle, and you got to think about how all other reasoning, advantage can be branched out from that specialization and differentiation. This is actually the A to Z of the multicellular. Okay? Due to that specialization and differentiation of the cells, we are able to have the larger size and complex structures. Do you agree with that? Okay, compared to the unicellular, which only have one cell, one cell need to do anything from like thinking about what to do, moving to where to go, what to eat, how to digest that. Think about it. If you have only one body, you only can do one task at the time too. But because you have a multicellular in your bodies too, you're able to like divide those work in your body as well. Talk about enhanced defense mechanism, I kind of talked about it too. Therefore, longer lifespan as we are saving more energies. Okay, if you use the energy efficiently too. Think about this too. You're not always activating your digestive system, do you? I mean, when you're fasting, when you're not eating anything too, your stomach doesn't really need to be activated. So basically what they do, they are turning off in terms of the power saving mode. They do actually too. If they don't go for the power saving mode, this is something going to be happen. Your stomach will continuously release the hydrochloric acid, continuously, with or without the foods. What are the consequences of that too? Well, first of all, you can imagine that you will always get the heartburn. You get burning sensation in your stomach all the time. If that is not pausing and going into power saving mode too. Secondly, you're wasting a lot of your energy to maintain the activation of those digestive systems. So do you expect you can live for like in the 90s or 100s with that kind of conditions too? Maybe not. You never know. You never know. People can survive, but it's got to be difficult too. They will always most likely experience a lot of the reflux, a lot of the some pain in the stomachs too. Or in the worst case scenarios that they may need to remove their stomach because they've been pretty much broken too. Okay, so we know somehow how to turn on, turn off the system, how to save the power. Therefore, we can achieve that a longer lifespan as well too. It's quite interesting if you think in that way that how our body system are organizing themselves too. Could we achieve the longer lifespan, healthier spans? We call those as the. Later on, we're gonna learn in more details in module 8. 2. Describe the process of the cell differentiation and specialization, mentioning at least the 4 key terms. Let's start with the 4 key terms then. Ellie, what are the 4 key terms for the cell differentiation and specializations? Stem cell. Stem cells. What is a stem cell? Let's define what a stem cell is. Does it specialize cell? From the stem cell, it starts everything. It's basically, I would say, it's a beginning of the cells or differentiation. Cell differentiations. Even that for the specializations. Which means if you have a stem cell, it can be anything. It can be evolved into the epithelial muscle cell. It can become the connective tissues too. It can be anything too, but it depends on that, on the master. So we can just think about this can be like can be evolved to any cells in the body, I should say in an organism. That's a better word. So have you ever like stem cell technologies? You probably haven't heard about cosmetics too. The stem cell technology, like in terms of that, we're using the stem cell with some attempting to creating the more moisture or moisturizing product, stuff like that too. It's quite common in terms of we're using in terms of they cultivating your organs too. So the idea for the stem cell is because it can be evolved to any of the cells too. So if you have like, for example, let's say brain cancer, the tumor, what they do is they take the stem cell of your body, okay, and they actually cultivate it to form into the brain cells. That cell is your cell, no one else's too. So what they do is after they are creating the brain cell from the lab, they just implant to your body. So basically what? You're replacing your body parts with your own body parts too. This is known as a theoretically stem cell technologies too, which is like theoretically, if that is possible, you are able to replacing all your body organs with your own, the younger one, the better ones too, the healthier one. So you will live forever, technically. So people actually are fascinated about all that too. Obviously, there's ethical and some of the social issues too. And there will also be a limitation on how much we can use that for. Okay. 2 is then, it goes to the something like gene expression. So from 1, we call the master cell. It can be anything there too. It started from the gene expression it's actually known as the blueprint. The DNA is getting involved too. So what they do is the DNA does a specific part of the gene, or the gene gets activated, okay, to form that special cell of that too. Now, I showed them what they mean in here. This is something very interesting. Gene is basically a section of the DNA here like this. So if you're in this like a DNA, the structures of here like too, you understand. You like probably in year 10 you probably learned the DNA is double helix structures. They look like this. Okay, so there's a DNA, all that's given too. Now, assume that this is your whole DNA, all DNA structures too. Now, what do we know? Only this part here is the section for your eye. Okay, this section for the stomach. This section here is for your brain. So, within the one long strand over here too, collecting all that, say like in the bone, all the structures too, from your genetic information, from one cell, from one nucleus, it has all your information. All your information is like head to toe. Your hair cells, your brain cells, all the blueprints of that too. But they do not activate all in the same time. When we have a stem cell, they decided to say, like in your eyes, for example, too, they started to activate the eye parts only and deactivate other parts. Because what we don't want to have is this. I don't want the stomach cells get activated in your eye cells. You get what I mean in here? Because what happens is, if you ever activate stomach cells in your eye region, your eyes got secreting the stomach acid. Then what happened? You go blind. Your acid is basically coming from your eye. Does that make sense at all? So this is not going to be happen. And somehow in our genes, they know where to activate to produce the very specific proteins, therefore the cells itself too. This is called a gene expression. It's something that's very interesting if you think about it like, this is actually really, really fascinating because they know what to do. Your body, whether you're consciously know, most likely you're unconsciously, they know how to activate that region so that you only get the skin cell for the skin cells. When you get a hair cell for the hair cell, think about it. You never get the toenails on your hair. That's gonna be gross, by the way. The toenails growing in your hair like this too. Okay, that never happens. So things like the gene expression comes after stem cells, and then it comes to the third part is the signaling molecules. So it's basically the guidance or guiding the cell on differentiations. By the cells are now like molecules are signaling to each other too. So they're basically guiding differentiations towards two. Let's say, let's speak here towards two, the right path. The right path. And rely on the chemical messengers. So they're basically messaging to each other too. And comes to the final point of the specialized structures. Structures, as well as the functions after that. So, it's a really long story, to be honest, from stem cells to how cells get differentiated. You really need to have understanding about molecular biology, some of the chemistry based behind that too. But just for today, for year 11, I will not really talk about those much in depth. Gene expression, by the way, will be module 5, year 12 content. So you will learn much more in deep depth and details. Means that you will need to memorize, understand what parts, how they actually do the gene expression by themselves. How do they know? How do they know? This is I, so how do they just only activating I? That's something we're learning in module 5 later on too. But does that make sense? Okay, in terms of the, I'm still talking about cell differentiation and specialization from that. All right, next one. What level of the cellular organizations are the following plant components are classified as? We have a root, phloem, leaf, fruit, chloroplast, all that givens. So, do you remember, Daniel, in terms of the components of the organizations? Organizations. When we say organization, okay.
Cells, tissues, organs, systems, and
Okay, shall we start from the smallest one, organelles, which is as we all talked about in the beginning of that class, it's all about the small things that come to what the inside of the cells. What comes after the organelles then?
cells,
It comes the cell, good. Collection of cells known as tissues. Collection of tissues known as organs. Collection of the organs known as system. Very good. System of the collection of that called the organisms like this. Okay, this is how we know these are living things from that too. Shall we just put those into this the categories over here for each of those? Started from the root. Root is, what would be the root from these? Organ. Root is organ. Easy. What about the phloem? It's a tissue. Okay, leaf. Ellie, leaf of the plants. Organization. That'll be plants, by the way. Plant is organization. With a system. What system? Leaf. Leaf is organ. Okay. System would be different. It's given there. We only have one system there. Can you see that system there? Shoot system. It's the one I consider systems too. Now, how do we differentiate the organ to system? Organ is part of system basically. Like think about the leaf and root, or the shoot and the root. That comes from the kind of systems of the transportations. So with system would have the very specific functions of that too, and organs take a place inside of the systems to perform the functioning of that. What else do we have? The fruit. Okay, what about fruit? Organ. I would consider it to be a reproductive system of the plant. Think about the fruit is used. Chloroplast is obviously one. Organelles. Okay, root hair cell. It's given as a cell. Root how the cell is given. Flower is, anyone? Organ. Good. Xylem. Is xylem a tissue? Again, what's the tissue? Tissue is
A
collection of cells too. Do you remember what cells make the xylem? What type of cells of the plant make the xylem?
vascular.
Vascular. Good. There's something you can differentiate from the tissue to the cells too. How many cells do we learn in terms of plants? There are dermal, ground, vascular. Main three things.
Isn't there a last one?
There's one more. Root systems too. Epithelial.
I think it's
Epithelial. Orthelial cells too. Shoot system, I put it in the system here like that too. Now, you can think of, okay, I know it's much easier to use the animals or the humans to think about all the organelles to that, organisms. Plant is typically something really hard because we don't really talk about xylem, phloem, and this kind of system a lot of times too. So it's probably a good idea to understand like what would be, how organisms can be categorized into. Okay? Some revision question from the last week in chapter 1. I hope you understand of those topics now. Any questions for those for now? All right, what we're going to do today is we are going to talk about, actually, we're going to start with chapter 3. Chapter 3, first of all. And we will talk about some of the respiratory systems of the mammals and possibly fish and insects, all the unicellular and multicellulars too. So have a look at the page, please. Page 63, 64, please. All right, cells, respiratory systems. So let's put that into our middle here. And so think about like what are we going to learn in terms of that. So respiratory, the system in the middle here like this. Okay. Whenever we say a respiratory system, you may just think, oh, that's talking about lungs, talking about all the lungs, what happened in the lungs too, which is part of the what? The organs of the respiratory systems. Again, we'll need to talk about a bit of like some different respiratory system in humans or animals or mammals to fish to the insects today. But whether that's a fish, whether that's an insect or humans or animals, all the respiratory system is involving one very important function. That is all about the gas exchange. Okay, Ellie, what gases do you think we are talking about today in terms of gas or essential? The gases for life. It's obviously the oxygen. Now, why do you think we need to get some oxygen? What for?
Reaction of the function.
What reaction? This is what we've done in module 1, by the way. Yep. Did you mean this? Cellular respiration? Okay. Do you remember the oxygen getting involved in cellular respiration? Showing the reaction of that oxygen gas plus that too, some of the we use in the glucose, which is sugar. It produce these forms of the carbon dioxide. Okay, with the water. Produce, most importantly, some ATP. That's known as the chemical energy. Okay, where does it happen? Mitochondria, at the mitochondria. It's the place that we go through the cellular respiration. So without that cellular respiration, the important thing is this: we are not able to get the energy. the energy we use to talk or they move to is not only that, energy that maintaining your body metabolism as itself too. So including maintaining your body heat, okay, processing something in your information in your brains too, they all requires the energy of the ATP. So without this, think really simply right here. Without the oxygen, no energy. You die straight away. Like think about how much time you can survive without the oxygen. The good 2 minutes or 3 minutes too. If you don't get enough supply to the oxygen to brain, your brain starts to get destroyed within like 5 minutes easily too. That's what we call the brain death, easy too. So one is definitely oxygen. Then we can also see some oxygen that is carbon dioxide here. The CO2, carbon dioxide. Daniel, what happens if we have too much carbon dioxide, you reckon?
I guess like it'll be something similar to a build-up of carbon.
Yeah, so would carbon dioxide be good or bad if you're having too much of that in your body? It's bad. I mean, we need to have some. We will get some carbon dioxide. Can you see, like, as a result of the product of the respiration, it is inevitable that we get some carbon dioxide for every single time from your cells. Your body's producing carbon dioxide, and they're sending to the respiratory system. If we have a lot of the carbon dioxide built in your lungs or to your body, what happens is too much of those making the the blood or your body fluids be the acidic. Okay, what does it mean by that? Okay, who likes carbonated drink? Who likes Coca-Cola, Sprite, all that, soft drinks? If you ever heard like when you open the fresh can of the soft drink, you see like Fiji. That's coming like a CO2 basically. But isn't that like surprising that you're actually consuming some CO2 when you're drinking every single day you're drinking some the soft drink? You do. So what comes here is this. If you ever felt that a little bit of the sourness from the CO2, the soft drink, the sour taste, okay? Yes, that's probably due to some of the vinegars or some kind of chemical we put it into those beverages too. But when we have a CO2 a lot in the water kind of dissolved too, they actually turn the water to be a little more acidic. In chemistry, we're going to learn that later on too. But this means that in making your bloods can be acidic. If you don't really expel the CO2 in your bodies too, if you're having too much CO2 in your bodies, as your bloods get, or your body fluids get, as including the cytoplasms get acidic, how would this affect your body if your body gets too much acid? As soon as you hear about, we have too much acidic, like the pH is dropping that too, it will definitely be affecting, most likely for your enzyme activities. Do you remember this? One of the main factors of the kind of change the enzyme activities, excluding the heat, pH change is a definite thing. What happened to the enzyme if you put it into the too low pH?
I mean, every enzyme is specifically designed for one.
But what if we put it into too low pH?
It will do this function.
Wow. Why? That's too easy to say. It's not going to function. Everyone knows that. But not everyone knows how. What happened to the enzyme when we put them into the really low pH, lower pH than our usual pH? As in like more acidic environment. Do you remember the key words that I asked you to remember called the denaturations? What happens during the denaturations? The active site of the enzyme get more like a change the form, the chemical forms to, or maybe like it just get destroyed time to time. So think about here. If the activation site of the enzymes get destroyed or denatured, what happened to the binding then? What happened to binding? Did I talk about it in terms of lock and key? Guys, think about like in your locks. Your locks, you put the acid into it. You're melting everything. Would your key working? I don't think your key will be working. Then it's going to melt it. Can we fix it? Once it gets destroyed, the damaged? No. That's basically what happened when you get too much CO2 inhaled in your body. Okay? So there's something we call the acidification of the, your blood systems too. It's also given here. The carbon dioxide produced and the moisture removed is toxic as if the concentration is too high. Change the typo, not the HP, the pH of the cells interfering with the enzyme functioning, all that too. So the main purpose of the respiratory system, whether I'm talking about fish, animals, or the insect, is this. We want to get oxygen in, so that'll be in. We want to get the carbon dioxide out. Is the main function of that too. But how can we do that? How can we get the oxygen in the same time carbon dioxide out? This is a time to use the passive, the transport of the gas, which is by using the diffusion. What is a diffusion? Daniel, what's a diffusion?
Diffusion is the transfer of molecules through the phospholipid bilayer or the cellular permeable membrane.
Is that it? I'm looking for a very specific keyword here, which I didn't hear yet. Keyword for the diffusion. Ellie, what about the keyword for the diffusion? I got transport, by the way. I got semi-permeable membrane, which is okay to hear. You're missing something. No? Not even close? Daniel, why we get a diffusion?
Concentration gradient.
Thank you. Would that be a common keyword for this? Always. Always. It's all about this. In short, in summary, high to low. High concentration, low concentration. We call that as concentration gradient. Passive transport of the gases always happen. Diffusion always happen from the high to low. Think in this way. We want to get the oxygen in and carbon dioxide out. So let's assume we have a body, like I drew the body box of the body like this. Your body. Okay? That's called a system or outside, external environment. Anything that can happen. If you would like to get the oxygen in, so oxygen O2 in, where do you think we need to have a greater concentration of the oxygen? Inside or outside? So body as in like an inside, I can just put the inside. Ellie, if I want to achieve that oxygen getting into your body, which side do you need to get the greater concentration? Outside of the body or inside of the body? My question is, comparing the external or outside, if that's confusing you, inside and outside. Outside of the cells or the outside of the body to the inside. I want to get this flow. Do you understand why I need to get this flow? I want to get the oxygen into my cell, into my body. It's important. Which would side have the greater concentration? Outside or inside? It would be outside, the greater. So it would be greater concentration O2 and lower concentration O2 there too. Okay? What about the CO2? I want to get the CO2 out from our body, from inside to outside. Which do you think have the greater concentration? Inside the body or outside the body? Inside the body. We have a greater concentration of CO2 and lower concentration of CO2 there too. I'm just simply following what? The passive transport of the gas or the diffusion concept too. This is the reason why when you are breathing in something, you're getting the oxygen into your lungs, which is your respiratory system. There, when you gas in, there are a lot of the oxygens there. But when you're exhaling, like that, okay, the CO2 comes out as you're using your muscle to get the gas out of your bodies too. All the respiratory system is doing the same work here too. In general, our body has a lower concentration of the oxygen compared to the external, whether that be your lungs or the outside of here. Think about it. Of course it is. Think about how many oxygen is available on here compared to your body. Okay, so that when you inhale that, there's a full of oxygen comes into your lungs, and your lungs is the place that we're taking a place of what? The gas exchange. There will be in the lungs, we have a low concentration of oxygen. As much as low means what? They do more of the oxygen get absorbed there into. Does it make sense? Okay, then what happened? And there will be a lot of the CO2 built in your lungs when you inhaled. Okay, so what happened then? The CO2 get transferred to the outer of the cells. So when you exhale, you're getting the CO2 out of your body. You're basically removing CO2 from your body like that. Does that make sense? Try to understand it using module 1 in terms of how this is related to. Then, what would be the beneficial in terms of when we're taking the gas exchange? Do you think we need to have the large surface area to volume or small surface area to volume? What was the benefit, or there was a disadvantage or the advantage of the large surface area to volume then?
Large surface area to volume. I'm pretty sure that allowed for quicker diffusion.
Quicker diffusion, very good. So the quicker diffusion. Yeah, that's what we learned, and we did the experiment. Okay, so how do we then achieve the larger surface area volume? I mean, this means that our respiratory system will need to have the larger surface area to volume. Why? Because we need to get the gas. We need to get a ghost gas as soon as possible, as quick as possible too. I mean, can you maintain the CO2 for 1 hour? I don't think it's possible to. As soon as the CO2 is kind of generated or produced in your body, we need to remove them really quickly too. And then we need to fill it up with the oxygen, just like you're filling your petrols and gasolines there. How do we achieve that? How do we get the larger surface volume? Make it flat, so by flattened, good. Flattened shell, so cells, that's one thing. Anything else? Is there any method that we can increase the surface area to volume? Huh? Small pieces, so in terms of size of cells. Okay, well, this is also related to here, the small sized, the cells with the differentiations too. What about in terms of increasing the surface area? So basically increasing, I think that's the more important thing, increase surface area. How do we increase surface area? By making something flattened too. How to make that? Okay, show you that. This is a box here. Let's have some coffees. Okay. This is a certain volume, isn't it, guys? Okay. If I want to increase surface area, I flatten them. I open this box. You ought to see that. Now, what you'll be able to see there here is, if I just tear them off, and I have large surface area here. Okay. Now, in terms of volume, remember I had this volume before too. This is called a small surface area to volume ratio. What about this one, flattened? Do I have a larger surface area? Okay. Can I increase surface area even further from here? Yep, I can. I tear them off. Or destroy the whole box system there. Oh, this is even larger surface there, flattened, and the greater surface area can achieve by that too. Okay, means that now you got to think about it in terms of cell. If this is one cell, if this box is a whole one cell, then what happened here is there are large surface area with really shallow, thin, thin kind of box kind of shapes too. They will go for the diffusion really quickly. and more efficiently because all the surface area get involved into these some gas exchanges. Does it make sense? Rather than I'm having this. This is gonna be like there's a certain portion of the places taking place of the gas exchanges too. Maybe this side only, that side only. This we go through everything too. Does it make sense? This is why we say so much about surface area to the volumes in terms of that too. So what do we have? Let's talk about then how does it affect it. Have a look at your page 65, please. In mammals, in humans, this is what we have. You know that you have lungs, 2 lungs by the way. And this is basically what you have inside. Can you see that inside of your lungs? We have something called the bronchioles, and we call the alveoli. Can you see alveolus over here too? Now, alveolus are basically some look like a little small sac of the or like a bulb of those air. Okay. What do we now here see that is? Can you see that? Those vessels, the blood vessels there. They're wrapping around that small vessels there too. And I'm not talking about just we only have 1 cells. Even inside of that, can you see like they're large or they kind of divided into rooms of that too? This is kind of developed in the evolving that method because to maximize the surface area in your lungs. We don't only have 1 block of lungs like this. Instead, they're all like shattered, really small spaces there into. And if you think about if I can expand them, they've got a huge surface area. Why do we need to have that such a large surface area to the volume? It's all about the really quick diffusion of the oxygen and the CO2 too. Okay? Generally, the arteries are the one that carries the oxygen in. Veins, the one carries the veins and something carries the deoxygenated CO2 into that too. So here is the place we're taking a place of the gas exchange in the mammals. Probably everyone know that from your 9-year data science too. It's not something very special in here. What you need to know is the part of the respiratory system we're including from here. So all your nasal cavity, your pharynx, which is this part of the behind the neck, larynx, trachea, and we have the bronchos. The bronchos go to this part here, bronchos and bronchioles to the alveoli. You need to know what those are indicating in each of your body. Now that is shared a lot with the different other type of mammals too. I'm talking about dogs, cats, cow, you name it. They all have the very similar structures. They all have a nose, they all have a lungs, they all in the lungs, they all have the alveoli structures too. Okay, so we could kind of differentiate from the lungs. So remember that, started from the nasal cavity, we have to go move on to the pharynx, then to the larynx. Now that goes to the bronchus and bronchioles and alveoli. Bronchus is a bigger term, it's a bigger, thicker. If you think about tree of that, so it's kind of easy. The tree trunk of the body, if you think about flip that, it looks like a tree itself too. Okay, so this kind of thick stem is known as bronchus. So, and bronchiole is something coming into the lungs as well too. So if you have a cough with some fever with that too, the sound made from the bronchus. And if you have inflammation on the bronchus, we call it bronchitis. Okay, not too bad to understand what's making a difference too. So page 66 giving a little more ideas about alveoli as a gas exchange. Please highlight that. Alveoli in lungs have all the features that allow the efficient gas exchange. Highlight the first top point and first 2 and 3. First, we have increased the surface area actually by approximately 300 million microscopic alveoli that are supplied by 280 million capillaries. Yes, 300 million alveoli per human. That's a lot. Yep. Each alveolus has a folding of the thin interior lining, thus further increasing surface area. 2. Each alveolus has a thin lining made of the flattened cells that are in the single layer, facilitating the efficient diffusion of gas across the very small distance. Now, can you see that? Those things, the content we just talked about before we even touched the respiratory system, it's kind of related. Can you see the key words are shared between module 1 and module 2 here too? 3. The surface of all parts of the respiratory system is moist. So, the air inside the alveoli is saturated with the water vapors and the mucus-lined epithelium reduces the evaporation of this water. This ensures that oxygen and carbon dioxide that diffuse across the gaseous exchange surface air are in a dissolved form, enhancing the efficiency of the diffusions too. Yep, so this is why all your internal organs, especially respiratory system, are kind of moist, not like a dried food. And you probably know like what happens if your bronchus get dried from the dry cough. It actually hurts. And you wouldn't get a good amount of the gas exchange if your bronchus is ever get dry too. Okay. Capillaries, the fourth point too, the numerous blood capillaries that closely surround the outside of each alveolus ensures that all alveoli are in close contact with the blood as well too. So the key point is always the same. Gas exchange is all about the fast diffusion, and that requires the greater surface area to the volumes all the times. Does it make sense for the mammals? Should I talk a little more about that? I don't think so. Like it should be pretty. It's kind of straightforward for now. Okay. Okay. What about fish? What about fish? Ellie, what's the main difference between fish and mammals? Okay, can breathe. So do you mean like they get the oxygen from inside the water? I mean, it's still the same. When I say like the breathing means they are getting oxygen in and CO2 out all the times too. Yeah? What about mammals? Can you breathe inside the water? No, why? Why? Okay, this is the starting point. Why can't we breathe inside the water? Gills. Why do you think we can't breathe in the water? I mean, there are some like frogs, amphibians. They can actually they can breathe in and out of the water. So this is why we call them amphibians.
I'm not sure if frog can do that.
Frog can do that.
That's tadpoles, isn't it? Isn't that tadpoles? And they develop lungs.
They have a lungs and the gills at the same time. They have some kind of functions. The whales, by the way, whales cannot breathe inside the water. Did you know that? Whales have a lungs, just like mammals too. There's something, but dolphins can, sharks can. Okay. Why? I mean, think about guys here. You try to breathe in. When we breathe in outside the water, we actually take a direct gases into our tract. We are using the gas exchange using the gases available. Would there be gases available inside the water? Like gases like this kind of all like invisible gases. Is the gases available in the water? There are some gases available. Okay, which means our lungs can evolve to get the gas directly from the gas, the externals too. But fish would have gases from using the gills too. So what they do is the gill structure is basically absorbing the dissolved oxygen in the water. Okay, and taking the removing also be dissolved CO2 in the body. Okay, so what do you mean by dissolve the oxygen? You never thought about you have a dissolved oxygen. Has anyone actually had a fish in their tank ever? Okay, now teach me about how to raise a pet fish.
How to raise a fish? You have to make sure that the tank never has any algae.
Yeah.
Unless you specifically have bottom feeders.
Yeah.
You want to have a water filter that pumps air into the water so that it can get more oxygen.
There we go. What happens if you don't have an air pump in the water?
If you don't have air pump in the water, then because it's not an open body of water, it's confined, there's going to be a higher concentration of carbon dioxide, and eventually there will be no oxygen left for the fish to breathe.
There we go. So it's kind of telling us the truth that too, without the pumping the air into the water, even it's like the water itself too, there is a bit of like about like some dissolved the oxygen concentration requirements all the times too. So for the open air, like a sea or the rivers too, they don't really need to worry about it because we have a large surface area of the river, so they can actually get good amount of the oxygen can be dissolved into the water. But you probably haven't heard about that many fishes die when we have the algae come. Now algae, why the algae is very dangerous for the fish? Because the algae are absorbing all the light as well as some oxygen in the water. In other words, they are taking all the oxygen in the water instead of the fish, so fish will no longer have the oxygen to breathe, or in terms of the using for their metabolisms too. So you probably haven't known like in the consequences of if you're not turning up the air pump for a day, I barely see like the fish will survive, to be honest too. What depends on the size of your like the tank or the aquarium too. They're always very important to turn the air on too. So, gill is kind of developed like a respiratory system of the fish that they do not really directly receive the oxygen from the air, okay, as due to their environment. And instead, what they do is the water goes into the mouth and into the gills too, as kind of passing into a really large surface. Can you see the large surface area here too? Okay, those gill filaments, gill filaments is actually again taking the oxygen, just like we are brushing that something to get something out of the dust. Okay, gill is basically working really similar too. They are kind of brushing the water, get the absorbing all the dissolved oxygen from the water, and at the same time taking the CO2 out of their bodies too. So same things happen. What I mean is in their body, they tend to have the really high concentration CO2, having low concentration O2. So when they're taking the water in, not the air this time, the water in, the waters get filtrated more likely, so that they can absorb the oxygen and remove the CO2 in the same time. Then what about like we can fit the fish out of the water? It's kind of obvious. The fish can survive outside of the water because their gill is not really developed to receive the air directly from the air. Okay, they can't really breathe in just like us. So we don't really use the term breathe in and out because breathe is all about the air, the exchange of the gases in and out through the air. Gill is fish is not really breathing the air. Instead, they are drinking, more like a drinking, and as well as they're emitting out the two. This is the main difference between fish and the like mammal systems too. But only difference is basically we use the water and that too. Same reason. Our lungs. Guys, have a think about here. Your lungs are not really developed to get the oxygen from the water. I mean, if that is possible, you may not have to worry about going to get drowned. Drowning, it basically happens that when you're drinking water and the water goes to your lungs. Now, if your lungs get drowned, lungs get wet with the too much excess water too, think about it. Your lungs are not able to filtrate oxygen from the water. And as you get drowned, to be honest too, especially the seawater, we learned about osmosis, didn't we? Okay, there are more greater concentrations of salt outside it too. They're taking all the water out of your body as well to the lungs. So you can imagine that what happens to your lung system, cells get destroyed, and the lack of the oxygen will kill you probably like within a good 5 minutes. Okay, nothing really like hard about that too. What about insects? Insect is something that they don't have lungs, nor the gills. So if you ever seen like some example of the ants. Any sort of the insects there too, but they still need the same oxygen. They still need the CO2 to get removed too. So unlike our system, the respiratory systems, insects, terrestrial habitat insect what they use the spores of that too. So highlight this point please. To ensure that species are not continuously exposed to the drying effect of the environment, they have the valves to regulate their opening and closing. So they actually have a valve on the body parts there too. Instead of they don't really use the mouth to breathe in and out. They use the body to get the spores too. So they can. So insects, unlike us, do not have the lungs or blood capillaries just like us too. They don't have heart system like us. They don't have the respiratory system, circulatory system, kind of different circulatory system too. So they do not have a lungs. So what they do is this. Lungs, think about it here. This is a kind of command center. This is why it's located in the center of your body. Your lungs never located at the bottom. You see always here, same for the heart. This is distributing the oxygen and gases to your body. Okay? Now, insects do not have the lungs. What that means is they have some sort of lung kind of system that hold out of the bodies too. So they're directly absorbing the air from the externals and removing the CO2 that directly using the pores instead of that. And this system involves the branching air tubes, highlight that please, is called the tracheal tubes, which carries the air directly to the cells of the body, and air that enters this spiracles is drawn into the tracheal tubes and tracheae. These are kept open by spiral rings of tough supported substance called the chitin, and trachea branch into smaller tubules called the tracheoles, which create a very large surface area to gas exchange too. So the main difference between the mammals to the insects do not have a lungs. Instead, they have a direct air supply system. We use in the tracheae and tracheoles. Can you see the diagram over here too? That's what I mean direct to. Instead of using the central system, the lungs, they are directly absorbing the gas from the external environment and get to go for the gas exchange. But a lot of times the insect is not really studied a lot too. But it's good to know like what's the main difference between insect and then fish and the humans for all the cellulars too. Any questions for this? Okay, so you probably have like like if you cover the body of the ants with the wet tissue, they actually can survive. Not the mouth, the body. Okay, they do survive. They close the mouth right away too. I mean, they can survive without the food for many days. But the reason why they get drowned easily too, because the body gets wet, means that they cannot really go for the direct gas exchange from the body. All good? Okay. That's all about the respiratory system. The key point is this. Whether I'm talking about insect, talking about mammals, fish, they all go through the same things over here too. If we like to have a look at them. All right, let's take a break, and we're going to answer some of the questions once you come back from the break, and hopefully we can move it on to the. Okay, question 1. Identify the characteristic of the efficient gas exchange surface and relate these to the structure of the gases exchange structure in mammals. If there are some sort of 4, one is definitely be the large surface area to volume, or just simply writing that surface area. And why is this something important? This is maximizing what we call it as the contact area. Okay, between the gas exchange. So simply means this: greater this surface area, more likely the greater the chance of the gas molecules, gas diffusion. All right. Next one. What have been other characteristics, Ellie, for the any of the respiratory systems? There are about 4. Excluding, so I've done large surface area or the larger surface volumes. It's kind of related to the surface area. Think about like, to achieve the larger surface area, the volumes, the cells needs to be, one cell needs to be thin. Yeah, it's about thinness. And how is the thinness related to the larger surface area volume, Daniel?
So how thinner cells have better surface area
Yeah.
ratio.
Yeah.
Um,
The thinness, and like rather than we have a really thick kind of shape of the block kind of shape, if you have a really long and thin kind of box shape, you can imagine that like this.
well,
Okay.
For example, say we had a 4x4, like a 4x4x4 cube as a cell, like for example.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we also had an 8x4x2 rectangular-ish kind of cell. The 8x4x2 would be, it would have a larger surface area.
Therefore,
There'll be more space for the gases to come into contact with. I don't really know how to explain.
yeah. Guys, have a think. It's easy. If I have a cell like that, okay, that's inside the cell, that's outside of the cell. Now, think about distance that gas needs to travel. If I have this kind of thicker shape of that, from out to in, the gas needs to travel this much of distance. Whereas if I have a really thin, like a paper thin, it will only travel this much here. Now, which will be much faster diffusion then? Obviously, the one that we have a flattened shell or the thin shell. So, write this one down, please. A shorter the distance. The shorter distance that allows, or shorter like a diffusion. Let me write it then, diffusion here. Shorter diffusion. The distance that allows for the faster movement. Faster the movement of the gas molecules. Gas molecules across the surface. This is the second reasons why we can actually like efficient gas exchange and surface area too. Anything else, Daniel? Think about how can we achieve that efficient gas exchange. Anything else?
I'm not too sure.
Okay, moisture is the third reason. Why do we need to be moist? Moist the respiratory tracts, all that too. Now, moistures are about this. Due to we have some of the water's kind of moisture presented, the gases dissolve, and they're better in the liquids. Better in liquids. Okay, and moisture, or the moist, which is surface, it can facilitate the dissolving of the gas molecules. Guys, think about it in here. Do we have like gas tubes in their body? I mean, these are blood vessels. Are they like gas tubes? Do you think we're injecting gases to that directly? Or it's basically the gases that are transported by your blood in the dissolved forms. For example, your blood itself is a kind of oxygenated. There's a lot of oxygen into it. That means you can't really get the oxygen directly from the blood from two. I guess they all dissolve the oxygen. And there's a reason why. It's better to have the moisture, like a moisturize the respiratory tract to enhance the dissolving of absorption of the gas. So we can actually get the efficient gas exchange too. Last one, how do we increase the more gas exchange, fast gas exchange? Forget about surface area. Anything else? Any other method that we can increase the rate, the speed of the gas exchange? This is all about this, diffusion. If you understand, like if we have really steep, like the concentration gradient. So what does it mean by the concentration gradient, guys? Means the difference between the concentration between two from out to in. This, especially a significant, the differences in gas concentration. Okay, between the sides of the surface, two sides of the surfaces. What do we expect? They will drive the diffusion really quickly, like our process. Means that, how can we achieve that? Daniel, how can we achieve that then, this kind of steep concentration gradient? Thinking back into, we have a body or cells, oxygen needs to go in, CO2 needs to come out. Okay, so this is the reason why we keep breathing out constantly. Or think about in the case of that you're exercising, you're running 100 meters, or it's really hot outside like this too. You're panting like that too. Have you ever wondered why you're panting? Why you're like taking the breathe in really quickly too? It's not just simply because like your hearts are pumping really fast. I mean, it's kind of all connected to. As you're running, you need to use a lot of the energy in your bodies too. Means that you need to mass production of the energy from the oxygen. Now, for a normal breath, like this, that breath from the oxygen from that breath would not be sufficient enough to get the energy. So what do? You're breathing faster. In the same time, your bodies are burning energy. Okay, forming what? CO2. A lot of CO2 builds in your bodies too. This is why you get a muscle pain. All this CO2 get built up and forming the acid and hurting your muscles time to times too. So what do? You breathe as much as we can. Okay, so that's the part of this. We try to keep the steep concentration gradient by constant breathing in and out of mechanisms of your body, so that we're able to achieve that, the good concentration of the CO2 in the body, so that we can do what? Can eject it out really quickly. In the same time, get the oxygen into it, because after we breathe out, there's no oxygen kind of left over too. You can think about this empty shell with the oxygen. It's much easier to fill it up, the oxygen, to the empty. Does all make sense to all too? So these are the four components of the efficient gas exchange. It doesn't matter for fish, it doesn't matter for the insect or the mammals too. We all go through the same things. I mean, like they're all using this all that times too. They're using the large surface area. All of the respiratory system for all the animals, all even the insect and the fish, they have a really thin lining too. They're all moisture. They're all kind of moistures too. Like I think of gills is a good example. They're basically in the water. It's full of the waters too. And the steep concentration gradient is something of the things we have to consider here. So how these structures in mammals can be related. Okay, mammals are more related to larger, kind of related that all the times too. All right, question 2 then, please. Explain why living things need to continuously exchange the gases with their external environment. You will probably realize that I've been saying the same thing again, but that's something like you need to write it down in your answers too. Ellie, why do you think living things need to continuously exchange gases with their external environment? Why do we need them? What for? Why do we need to breathe in and out? Yeah. What is a cell? So what's the purpose of that? What's a cellular respiration? Produce the energy. Good. What energy? From what to what? Good. Producing ATP, which is energy, from reactants of the oxygen gas and the glucose. I mean, this is the main reasons why. And why? And which means O2 gas is a crucial component of producing energy in the body or in the organisms. Okay? And producing ATP, along with the CO2 and H2SO2. Okay, so that's what? The component producing energy, which is essential for the all the metabolic activities, I should say, all the metabolic, the activities. There's a reason for that too. Okay, any other reasons? Any other reasons, Daniel? Why do we need to keep continuously breathe in and out? Let's put them in words. Why do you think we need to breathe in and out? In and out. I mean, think simple here. If we just needed oxygen, we keep breathing in, aren't we? Well, I mean, but if you think about it here, if we need just the energy, if we just need oxygen, do we need to breathe out? We're taking in only too, but we still need to breathe out. What for? It's all about these. It's waste, or your waste removal. What waste I'm talking about in here? Waste as in like carbon dioxide. Do you remember I talked about carbon dioxide in the beginning of that too? So CO2, as you know, is I would call the byproduct. The byproduct of the cellular respiration. And what happens if we get too much CO2?
Your body fluids turn acidic.
Yep. So having too much of that, acidic and
your enzymes will get denatured.
Denatured. Therefore, your metabolism will kind of stop working. So basically, you die. In other words, you die easily. Saying you die because of that kind of enzymes not functioning. I'm not still simply talking about your enzymes of your digestive systems. It's basically your brain activities, all that kind of included too. So it means that CO2 is byproduct of cellular respiration, which is not involved that too, and building up of the CO2 in the body makes the body fluid makes body fluid turn acidic, okay, and therefore affecting what I call enzyme activities. So we need to breathe it out to do so. So why do we need to continuously exchange the gas with the external environment? Due to that. One, we need to get the oxygen for the cellular respiration so that we can obtain the good amount of the energy from the respiration process. And two, we need to remove all the CO2, which is the byproduct of the cellular respiration. As CO2 gets built up, accumulate in your bodies, it will make your body fluids to be turning acidic, which will significantly affecting the enzyme activities, all that reasons too. So in short, we may just think about here, this is also related to the summaries of that too. This is giving us that reason of maintaining the oxygen levels, or oxygen levels, in summary of that too. Okay, so without the continuous oxygen intake, so we may say, so without the continuous, the oxygen intake, think about the consequences of that too. Again, the cellular respiration may ceased, or just may slow down or ceased. Therefore, leading to what? What do you guys reckon if you don't really make the energy? Leading to? Yeah, cell death. Eventually, if your cell die, the whole organism and the organ ultimately, the organism death. That's how we can summarize that in terms of importance of that. Okay, and this is kind of like acidosis. So the term is acidic. This is called the SCO. The term is actually acidosis. It's a term we use. Kind of explain the reasoning behind that, the waste removal as well too. Same things, yeah, same thing, but you just need to know how to word them properly too. I really mean it. Otherwise, you may not get the marks that you ought to get to. Okay, all right. Question 3. Identify the structures involved in the outline, the process for the gas exchange, please. So let's talk about fish first of all. Ellie, what is the body of or the organs responsible of the fish gas exchange? Gills. Only gills? As like do you remember when I said respiratory systems, I'm not simply talking about lungs or alveoli. I include the nasal cavity or the mouth as well too. So shall we start here at fish first of all, in terms of what is involved to, so structures. Fill it in your answer please. Structures involved is I would start with gills is a good one. So what happens at gills? How would you describe the gills? Let's be a little more specific about this structure there too. Can you describe the gill structures, please? Or have you ever seen the gills of the fish? The fish head too? Don't you think it's some sort of especially when it gets dry, don't you feel like it's kind of feathery shape, the two? You get what I mean, like feathery shape? Like they have the structure of that. There's a filaments, comes in a feather shape with the kind of really tiny bones in the middle too. So we do actually describe that as, well, the feathery shape. So feathery. But this is actual organs. Okay, where are they located? Don't say next to the eyes of the two. On the either side, on either the sides of the fish's head. The fish's head is where they're located to. And let's be a little more specific over here. The covered by a bony, the gill cover. Okay, this is called the operculum. Operculum, C-U-L-U-M. Okay, and the gills contain the numerous the gill, what do you call the filaments. Let's be a little more specific here. Okay, and further, divided it divided into, there's something even finer, even smaller. The finer the structure is called. We call that as the gill lamellase. Gill, L-A-M-E-L-L-A-E. A-E. Gill lamellase is the one. Okay? The double L's at the times. Structures on the fish mouth is also be involved in that too, but I'm not going to talk about the mouth and what the mouth is too, and obviously the blood vessels. Just like the humans or the mammals do, they are using the blood vessels in case. Okay, so in terms of the functioning of that, like the process of the gas exchange. So in terms of process, one is this. So it takes with the water intake, and this is where the mouth is due. The fish opens its mouth and they're drawing the water into the oral cavity, so basically drinking the water too. This water now is directly go to the stomach of that too. It goes to the gills, the water, the flow after that too. So this is, think about it here. There's a reason why the gills are located right next to the mouth. It's now further back to the tails, so that they can efficiently transport the water into the gills. Then there will be the gas exchange after that. Let's talk a little more about gas exchange of the fish there too. This is going to be different too. The one in the mammals too. So oxygen that dissolved in the water, they get the diffuses across the thin and also be moist membrane. Okay, let's be specific here. Membranes of the gill, the lamellase. So L-A-M-E-L-A-E again too. Okay, and what happens from that too? The oxygen goes to where? From gill lamellae into where? Okay, well, of course, it's the blood vessels. That is like within too. Are you copying this one down, Daniel? Okay. What happens then simultaneously? At the same time, the CO2 gas, CO2 diffuses. Okay, from the blood vessels to the across the gill membrane. Okay, and into the outgoing water. Outgoing the water. They're current too. Sounds really obvious, but it's hard to word them. The last is, after that, they take the what? Water, that water with a lot of CO2, they get that out. So that's called the water expersion. This is the one that comes after them. Okay, does it all make sense? I know it looks obvious, it's kind of obvious. Yeah, they drink the water. Okay, the water goes to the gills. Okay, they do some gas exchange in the gills and that too. But it's actually harder than you thought in terms of the writing down in the words. Because you can't just say, oh, the gills, the place they're taking the gas exchange there too. I want to know more. That's, if you just say, oh, the gas exchange happens to the gills and the fish, that's for year 8, year 9 kids. Okay, year 11, 12. Need to know how to use these keywords all the times too. So I want to see a little more depth in your answers, not just saying, oh, that gas exchange happens too. Make sure you complete your answers forms of these. So refer to that. Let's talk about the insects then. Okay, insects. So what I do, I share the same structure of these. Daniel, what's the structures involved in the insects' respiratory systems?
Tracheal tubes.
Yep, tracheal tubes. So let's write it down in terms of the system then, because the whole thing's got to be systems. Oh no, it's actually a tracheal system. Instead of saying like respiratory, like in case of that, respiratories are commonly used in terms of when we have blood vessels involved too. The tracheal system, could you describe what you mean by tracheals?
Tracheal, so for us, the tracheal system is...
Oh, for insects.
It's like a passageway where oxygen flows into the body. And then at the end of the tracheal tubes, there's this watery fluid that the oxygen dissolves into, and then that is carried out into the cells.
So what do you think about main difference between insect to the human or fish respiratory systems?
Insects, they don't have, what's it called? They have no capillaries in the gas exchange.
What's a capillary called?
The capillary is it's a type of blood vessel.
Good. So they don't have the blood vessels. I mean, they don't have blood itself too, to be honest.
Hemoglobin.
No, they don't have one. Insects, they don't have. Do they like colors of the red?
Oh, they're not red. It's like yellowish.
They are not the hemoglobin, so they're not the blood. We define them. Okay, so something we got like is I know you have least interest about studying insects, to be honest too. Like, it's good to know a little difference between two. So let's talk a little more here. This is the wording that I want to use again. The tracheal system is a article the a network of the branching. Okay, basically all the tubes are the branching the two. Now that deliver the oxygen. The key word for that is oxygen directly to insect tissues. So, in a case of that, do they breathe in just like a fish and us, like breathe in the air through the mouth or the nasal cavity or the trachea? They don't need to. They have the pores. So, this is why the tracheals or tracheas, trachea, they're open to the outside the via small opening. Okay, and this is called the small opening. The pore is called the spiracles. So spiracles. Write it again. Spiracles or spiracles. Okay, and located along the body. Okay, so just write it down. Those spiracles. These are involved in the some tiny openings, tiny openings of the insect. So it allows the air to enter and exit from the tracheal systems too. So if you see like in the insect body here, I mean like there's a bit of holes there, and inside the tube was kind of connected directly to the tissues. Does that make sense? All right, this it's not going to be like something that's controlled by the central like organ systems. Rather, it's actually controlled like directly from the external to the internals. So in terms of process of that, it's pretty straightforward compared to our systems. Then what they do is they take the air intake. Got to be easy, but through what? Through what? The tiny pore that we said through the called the spiracles. Not through the mouth, not from the nasal cavities too. And 2 is what we expect in the gas diffusion. So gas diffusion is through tracheal tubes into the insect body tissues. So O2 from the air, they will get diffuses through what they call that as the tracheal tubes. And into the insects like the body tissue. And what at the same time, CO2, okay, produced by cell respiration, diffuses from the tissue back into the tracheal tubes. So there is no organs actually, compared to other like gills or the lungs. Insects do not have the organs for those like, to transporting transferring the gases, because basically what they do is they directly get the air into the tissues, the where it's needed, and get the gas out from throughout the small pore called the spiracles. 3. Then what they do, they release air release from that as well too. Okay. Then how would they? This is an interesting question. How would they control them?
They use the muscles on their abdomen.
Mm.
So when they move or when they fly, the abdomen moves and then almost pumps more air into the spiracles.
Spiracles. They do use the kind of muscles or kind of ligaments of that too. It's more like connective tissues. What they do here, when something gets really, really dry, guys, have a think in this way. The essential part of the life is that 1, you do not lose your water in your body. In other words, you don't get dehydrated. 2, you don't get the lack of the oxygen level 2. So to avoid any of the dehydration, especially like today, think about it, really dry, really hot. What they do is they do not leave their spiracles open, they close them. So they'll be able, maybe just open like a few of those occasionally to exchange the gases, but they will slow down a lot. Think about in terms of their adaptations too. Would you be able to see the ants working really hot on the hot sunny days like today? You do sometimes, but in terms of the number of the ants that are working in the cool climates too, it will be less than what we expected. In other words, they're actually going more underground to avoid the direct heat or the losing the water from their bodies too, to avoiding any dehydration process, just like us. I mean, like, I don't expect to go outside and play hard and playing some sports when it's 40 degrees outside, because I know that you will easily get dehydrated. Okay? So in the case we have a really hot summer day like this day, maybe go to the beach to get the cool yourself down, to maintain your body temperature as well as rehydrated by yourselves too, or you can stay inside of somewhere nice and cool. Okay, that's something we're going to learn later on in Module 3 in terms of adaptation. But I want you to think about how these Module 1, we learned the diffusion from Module 1. We're moving on to how the animals and insects and other things actually using that scientific knowledge or its understanding to enhance their life, to maintain their life itself in Module 2. In Module 3, we're going to further back into how those actually get used to for the evolution processes or the adaptation to survive, and the reproduction as well too. I hope this class gives you some ideas about how the Module 1 is going to relate to the Module 2 and further to Module 3 and 4 onwards too. So this is why I've been asking you, hey, what's mean by diffusion? What happened? And I really want to hear the key words when you describe the diffusion or even for the enzyme activities from Module 1 too. That's the question you will get a lot in your half yearly. Okay, the half yearly is going to be in, I don't know, maybe in term 2, sometimes later too. but there's something you have to consider for now. Any question for the respiratory system? I know it's really simple, but I made it a little hard. We're going to finish the rest of those digest system next week. So all the chapter 3, the males, the mammals, and different parts of that too. We're not going to really talk about other things about the insects digest system or the fish digest system. Fish basically shares a very similar digest system as us too, but we're going to talk more about enzyme activities from that too. Okay. Homework for the next week.